Welcome to Nick on Knicks, where your boy N.I.C rants about the latest Knicks news. My sports life has not been easy. Those of you that don't know, I am a Knicks, Mets, and Jets fan. That's why I have another podcast called He Did This to Me, referring to my father who gave me these allegiances. And so, therefore, I have had a lifetime of being a laughingstock. There's been one championship. I can't say none. There's been one championship when I was 2 with my Metsies. But a lot of it has just been pain and just never getting to the mountaintop. And it has been a lot of teams that were horrible and you knew they were horrible. A lot of teams that you thought maybe could be a little bit better than they are. But, there's a bunch of different reasons, whether it be coaching, injuries. It's been a lot of tough years. I've never rooted for a team that frustrates me more than the 2024-2025 New York Knicks. It's just what is clear that this team can be and what they are. And it's not due to injuries. It's not due to, just not having the right personnel or we're a piece away. It's just about the fact that they just don't give you the level of effort and attention on a night-to-night basis. We've seen it all season long. We will put it together for a few weeks. We especially did that during the season against lesser competition. But again and again, this team would come out on certain nights throughout the regular season, and they would be almost unrecognizable compared to what you see other nights when you feel like, man, this team is a real contender. They could be one of the best teams in the league. They could win a championship this year. And it seems like in this postseason, it's not even from night to night. It's from quarter to quarter. It's from timeout break to timeout break that you see a team that at one moment seems like they could win it all. And at the very next moment, you look at them and you say, this team is not serious in the slightest bit. They are wildly inconsistent. And they have no chance of winning this game or getting out of this round. Any Knicks fan who is denying that at certain points of game 3, you were thinking about whether or not Karl Anthony Towns can be your second best player on a championship team and whether or not Tom Thibodeau could be the coach of a championship team. If you try to tell me that during game 3 you weren't thinking that at some point, you're lying. We all were. Most of us were saying it on Twitter or to the people that we were watching the game with. I did both. No, I didn't say anything on Twitter at that moment. I didn't. I don't usually tweet too much in game, honestly. But yeah, I had the conversation with my pops as we were sitting there watching the game about the fact that, hey, if we could give up him and Bridges for, we were already talking about the N.I.C trade. And then the Knicks put together a fourth quarter. They were down by 20 at one point in the second. They go into the fourth quarter down by 10. And they put together a fourth quarter, Karl Anthony Towns with 20 points and 8 rebounds in that final quarter, brings us back. We take control of the game and hold them off late. And the Knicks are down 2-1. And you say, you know what? Hey, I know we lost the first 2 at home. I know the numbers aren't good when that happens. I know that we were down by 20 points in game 3, but we found a way to come back. And if in game 4 we can get another win in Indianapolis and come back home with it 2-2, we got a chance. The Pacers will be on the ropes. And you once again are fooled by this team into thinking that maybe they figured it out. Maybe they get it now. Maybe they understand what they need to do on a nightly basis when it comes to effort, force, intensity, communication. They're all talking about it. They're all talking about the lack of communication, how it's got to be better and how it's better at certain points, but we got to do it for a full 48 minutes. The same things that we're saying. Yet, they come out in game 4. They start the game sluggish. How is it possible that you start the game sluggish in this scenario? How is it possible that you start the third quarter by just being careless and just giving away the ball? And yet, that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what this Knicks team has done all year. There's never been a more Jekyll and Hyde team that I've ever watched in all my life where their highs look so high and their lows look so low. I have seen teams that I feel like, you know what, this team could be a little bit better if they were just a little bit better when it comes to, some of those same things, effort, coaching, strategy, scheme, whatever, but not the drastic chasm that is between the pinnacle and the depths of what you get and what you see from this New York Knicks team. It is beyond frustrating. It's mind-boggling. I can't understand why I can see a team at one moment that looks like this and a team at the other moment that looks like this. The NBA is streaky. Basketball in general is a game of runs. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. But I watch the other teams, and I watch teams that are playing against us, and they do not have the level of variance that we have on a night-to-night basis, on a quarter-to-quarter, from one timeout to another. They do not have the same amount of variance that this team does. They just don't. It's so hard to watch. It's so annoying to watch. There was times at the beginning of the season that the Knicks looked like they had one of the best offenses I've ever seen. People were comparing it to 1973. The ball is moving. Cat is in the 5-out system. He's catching it. Everybody's cutting. Boom, boom. Brunson is distributing more. We got this well-oiled machine. There's other times where the offense looks like it looks like the Knicks offense in the 90s, which was stagnant and slow and extremely reliant on one player to make it happen for everybody else. And that's all within one game. You will see that drastic of a swing from one end to the other as far as what this team can do, and you know what this team is capable of because they've shown it too many times. They're just not serious. They're not serious enough. They just are not serious enough. It is clear. I always come back to this because it drives me bananas. The fact that these guys at this point of a season, when they're in game 90-something with the healthiest roster in the NBA, with a bunch of guys who are considered to have high basketball IQs, who are considered to have, to be good defenders, and, well, at least 3 of the guys in our starting lineup are considered to be 3 good defenders. 2 of them are considered to be very good. That's debatable, especially when it comes to Bridges, but we'll get to him. But I don't care if you're playing pickup ball with some guys you don't know. Excuse me if you are a repeat listener and you've heard me say this. Shouts to Darlene blowing up the chat. I see you in there. I'm going to get to you. But it's like if you play pickup ball with some guys you don't know, you figure out who's guarding who, right? That's not a hard concept. In the NBA, it's a little bit hard. It's a lot harder. Everything's a lot harder. And these guys, there's cross matchups and guys are getting out in transitions. But the fact that these guys have not learned how to communicate on defense and know who's guarding who to a point where multiple times early in the game, throughout the entire game, late in the game, there's times where with no type of action, but simply just getting the ball up the floor, somebody can look around and find somebody who is a good to very good to great shooter standing there wide open with nobody on him, and there's two Knicks on somebody else or one Knick in no man's land, and that guy catches the ball and shoots one wide open three after another, and we're consistently standing around pointing at each other, it is the most annoying thing I've ever endured as a fan, watching this team and their lack of communication on defense. The Knicks never get with these wide open threes. They never get to come down the court and just pass it to somebody. That guy's wide open and he shoots a three. Why? Because other teams, they say, I got him. They recognize he's a shooter. So if he's by himself and like say transition, I'm closest to him, I got to get him. Or we're switching or we're not switching. Or we're showing and then retreating, or we're not, or we're hedging, or we're not. The Knicks can't figure that out when there's no action being run. Once you add in a screen, a cut, or two, or three, which the Knicks offense never seems to get to step 2 or 3 as far as the set and what the goals are, but we'll get to that in a little bit. All another team has to do is get the ball up the floor and find the open man. If there's no open man, run a pick and roll, run a ball, run any sort of action, make a couple passes, and there will be an open man. That man might be standing behind a three-point line, or that man might be in the paint where he can easily finish most of the time with a dunk. Because, again, every other team in the NBA has multiple guys who are going up and dunking the ball with ease. The Knicks have one guy in their starting lineup that can do that, and he, just like this team, can finish with just absolute force, two-hand strong dunk, lay up right at the rim on one occasion, and the next occasion he goes in, he either fumbles the pass, fumbles the ball, or as he's going up, just, ends up putting up some shot where he's, below the net, flicking it up as opposed to jumping up and finishing over the rim. If you don't know who I'm talking about right now, you shouldn't be watching this podcast because, you're not really a real Knicks fan. If you are watching this podcast and you're not a real Knicks fan, then maybe you're just like me, and I appreciate y'all too. So I'm talking about OG and Anunoby just for reference. Yo, man, I don't, it's so hard to understand how these guys still don't understand who's guarding who. Every other team is able to get wide open shots, like I'm saying, without even having to scheme it up against the Knicks. Yet every single shot the Knicks take feels like it's under extreme duress and like people are just all over them and they have to work so hard to be able to get those shots. Why is that the case? This lack of communication shit that they acknowledge themselves all the time, how is that not something that we figured out yet? How is that something that's so difficult to figure out? I don't get it. There should be variance in things like shooting. Yeah, you have good shooting nights. Some nights you don't. Officiating. Yeah, sometimes the refs suck. Sometimes they don't. During this playoff run, have they sucked more so? At the Knicks. Has it benefited the team that's playing against the Knicks more so this year when it comes to the officials? Absolutely. In the playoffs, the amount of non-Knicks people who are neutral or even like Philly fans who should hate the Knicks that I've seen comment about the officiating and how it has been negatively impactful for the Knicks throughout this playoffs, but specifically after this Game 4. The officiating in Game 4 was criminal. My dad never wants to blame the officials. I was with him watching the game, and he was like, what is happening right now? Call after call after call. But you know what? At the end of the day, that is what it is. The Knicks, in that game, if they play the way that they're supposed to, they win that game. When you talk about the Knicks and you talk about not playing the way that you're supposed to, you talk about just an overall terrible game, got to start with Josh Hart. I feel bad, putting so much onus on Josh Hart and his performance just because he's a guy who is so selfless. He plays with such reckless abandon, and he's so instrumental for this team in so many different ways. Jack of all trades, had 2 huge rebounds down the stretch of the game 3 win. And I mean, I don't think there's not too many Knicks fans who are just like, I don't like Josh Hart. I don't like this guy. But in game 4, Josh Hart, it's the worst basketball game that he's ever played as a Knick. That's not even a question. And it's one of the worst performances from a rotation guy in a playoff game that I can remember. He was 3 of 5 from the field, 1 of 2 from behind the arc, 5 of 6 from the line. He had his typical 4 offensive rebounds, 7 rebounds on the defensive end, 11 total, only 1 assist, which he typically is much better when it comes to distributing the ball. But instead of throwing the ball to his teammates and an opportunity for them to be able to score, he did a lot of throwing the ball to the other team. Yeah, Darlene, you're right. He did have a lot of turnovers. In fact, he had 5. 5 turnovers for Josh Hart, and just a uninspired, lackluster, boneheaded performance by him. It was hard to watch, and it was all throughout. I said within a few minutes of him being in the game, that's a tough stretch for Josh. But at that point, I was thinking, you know what? It's a tough stretch for Josh. Josh's going to make a couple plays at the end of the game that are going to make you totally forget that. And because, you got to, as my dad's always screaming, you got to keep him on the floor. Got to keep him on the floor because you never know when he's going to make that huge play. You never know what kind of play it's going to be. Josh Hart, from the very beginning last night, just looked like he didn't have it. It's not just the turnovers. Josh will give you 1 or 2 boneheaded passes in the course of a game. He leaves his feet to pass all the time. A lot of his act of just being able to run straight at the basket and lay kids up, the scouting report is on that. He cannot do that as easily as he could earlier in the year because people know just keep giving ground on him, challenge him at the rim, and then if you do impede him enough that he has to pass, now everybody, once he jumps up in the air, don't just get called ball watching. Go ahead and start fading back to those shooters and steal the pass. And he's got to realize that, people are on that now. I mean, he admitted it himself that he jumps up in the air and doesn't know what he's going to do. He said it on the Roommates podcast during the season. And last night, not only was he throwing the ball to the other team, it was always like immediately leading to like a fast break point the other way. At one point, I'm pretty sure the Celtics had 16 fast break points. I'm sorry, not the Celtics. The Pacers had 16 fast break points to our 0 or some shit like that. And Josh Hart was a major contributor to that. The other reason that you feel bad giving Josh Hart a hard time is he has taken on the new role. He went ahead and he volunteered saying, hey, I don't need to start. Maybe we need to make a switch. The starting lineup and their plus minus has been bad all season, but especially bad during this postseason with a fairly large, amount of data. It's not plus minus from game to game is hard to, really draw major conclusions from it. Once you get to a certain amount of games and a certain amount of plus minus, it's just clear which lineups work the best. The starting lineup was not it. They were not it. And so therefore, Tibbs makes the change. He puts Mitch into the starting lineup for game 3. He plays some guys off the bench a lot more, and the Knicks are able to figure out a way at the end and get the win. Game 4, we go with that same starting lineup, but Josh Hart, instead of kind of running with the second team and being kind of like that, burst of energy that we get off the bench, he basically just sat out the first 5 minutes of the half and played the normal Josh Hart role. In the normal Josh Hart lineups, we saw the starting lineup that we've seen since the beginning of the year become basically the lineup that played most of the fourth quarter, definitely down the stretch, and overall got the most minutes of any lineup throughout the entire game. The lineup that we changed the starting lineup because these particular 5 players, when they play together, statistically they don't do well. And then in the next game, starting lineup still changed, but that lineup plays more than any other lineup throughout the game. Make that make sense. But we'll get back to that. Josh Hart didn't have it, man. He played 35 minutes and 59 seconds. He played 36 minutes. And the turnovers were bad. But the falling asleep on defense, man, made me want to pull my hair out, yo. Over and over again. I don't even know how exactly you quantify this or how somebody could, but the amount of times that he got back cut, that he didn't know who or what the switch was, that he just simply wasn't paying attention up to the very end when Pascal Siakam gets back cuts him on a inbounds play, which should never happen. If you've ever played basketball, that should never, ever happen. You make them throw the ball over your head and that guy going away from the basket. You never let somebody get past you this way going towards the basket, and then all you can do is foul them or give up a layup. Josh Hart chose to foul, and Siakam goes to the line, hits 2. That was one of those nails in the coffin, too, for the end of that game when the Knicks decided to make it interesting. Yo, man, the Josh Hart experience last night was terrible. It was the worst game I've ever seen him play. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he needed to be saved from himself. Sometimes you have a tough night. When you have a tough night, you probably shouldn't play 36 minutes. Mikal Bridges. Whew. Man, has it been an up and down season with this guy? He has certain times where he's getting it going. He has other times where you're like, all right, man, was this guy worth 5 picks? Then he has a couple defensive stops in this playoffs already against Boston that you say, yes, he was worth 5 picks just for those stops. And when you look at his numbers overall from last night, he's 4 of 5 from 3. He's 6 of 15 overall from the floor, which isn't great, but I'll take it, especially if you shoot 4 or 5 from 3. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, gives you a block, a couple steals. I'm sorry, no, sorry. Wrong row. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. And you have to watch this game to really understand how bad Mikal Bridges was. He had 3 turnovers, felt like he had 8. So lackadaisical with the dribble. He is getting killed by Halliburton. He's not good at navigating screens. He's not. He once was. The statistics these last couple years have said it. If you watched him play this year, navigating screens, getting through screens is not his high. It's not a strong suit. It's just not. I've read it's because he has really long legs, so therefore his waist is high, so he has a hard time like getting low and getting through them. I don't know. He needs to watch some. he needs to watch some Neesmith. Some Neesmith tape, man, because that cat gets through every motherfucking screen. That's also because we don't do a great job of screen man with ball going shoulder to shoulder with screener and making this guy have to, make contact with the screener. We don't do a good job of that. Brunson himself, who, I love Brunson. Brunson's the best thing that's happened since sliced bread, sliced hard bread, if you know what I'm talking about. But that's one thing he can improve on for sure is his ability to run a little bit closer to the screener and therefore really pick off that guy who's guarding him. But Bridges, whew, that's a tough night for Bridges. Pantries. I don't know if it's Pantries or Pantries. If you're Jamaican, it's Pantries, but it's probably Pantries. Dude looked bad in all aspects of the game. Speaking on Mikal Bridges, you are 100% right. Yeah, man. Bridges was it was a piss poor performance from him. He went 4 or 5 for 3. That don't even seem real to me because I don't even understand how that's the case because he seemed like he missed like a few down the stretch. But I think a couple of those were long twos, which down the stretch, taking those long twos is stupid in the first place. But second of all, I mean, at that point, we were just, we were desperate. Brunson, we totally went away from him. Brunson started off on fire. In the first quarter, Brunson, I was like, man, this cat's about to have 40. And he still ended up with 31. But in the fourth quarter, he only took 4 shots. And towards the end, it seemed like everything that we were doing was just trying to like get Bridges the ball on curls. And I didn't get that. Didn't get that one at all. Bridges, sometimes you catch him on a heater. What is it, game 1 against Boston? I think game 2 against Boston, he had a good big fourth quarter, but game 1 was the one where like he barely did anything and then scored like 12 or 14 in the fourth. Bridges sucked last night. The turnovers coming out for the third quarter, him and Brunson turning the ball over back to back. They go on a 7-0 run. They just went on a 6-0 run to end the second quarter. It's a 13-0 run. We were like tied and we were even like up like 60-something, and then all of a sudden it's 69-65 at the half, and then boom, we're down by 12. My pops looked at me at halftime and said, what we can't do is come out here lackadaisical and do some dumb shit like get down 12. I didn't even say he was sitting right there, and I didn't even say to him like, "What'd you like?" Because we were both so disgusted. We didn't need to add that to the air. But Bridges, he was hot garbage last night. Dreadful, awful performance by Bridges. The defense, the turning down layups so that he could dribble out and take tough fucking fadeaways. You ain't been hitting that fadeaway in the first place. Second of all, bruh. You 6'5", you long, you athletic. You can dunk a basketball easily. Go up strong. And if you can't dunk it, at least finish strong at the rim and make somebody block your shot. Everybody's got the still of Brunson getting the rebound, kicking it ahead to him, and where he is when he catches the ball and Neesmith's behind him. He's not that close. And the shot that he ended up with after he dribbled out and took a fadeaway early in the shot clock. Another thing this Knicks team doesn't do sometimes that drives me nuts is like, yo, you got the ball, you caught it. There's a long pass, you catch it. You make a steal like DeLon Wright did at one point on the inbound. That doesn't mean that you have to attempt whatever quick layup or short shot that you can because you're in that position. Especially if it's early in the shot clock, which clearly in either of those scenarios it is. Dribble the ball out and get a better shot, yo. Get a possession and get a decent shot. We just got a turnover, or we just got a missed shot on the other end. That doesn't mean we have to go and get up the quickest shot ever. We can, if it's a good shot, if it's a layup, sure. If it's a kick out to a wide open 3, sure. But there's just way too much that Bridges does on a nightly basis that you look at yourself and you're like, yo, what are you doing? When he's not shooting well, it can be frustrating, but I can get over that. When he's playing soft and he's making mistakes and he's throwing the ball away, Bridges was garbage last night. So as far as the players are concerned, I thought that Cat was probably maybe the most consistent Knick throughout the game. He ends up with 24 points, 12 rebounds. I thought he was being strong about the way that he was going to the paint. I thought that he was, not looking for assistance for the referees and alienate them as he so often does. Cat's one of the few people who had a plus minus on the positive side, +3. Him and DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet. Those are the 3 guys. That lineup of those 3 plus Deuce and OG look pretty good. Look pretty good. Karl Anthony Towns, man, I thought he played pretty well last night. OG, Offensively, he ends up with 22 points, but he's 1 of 7 from 3. Again, lots of times where he seems like he has an easy shot in the paint and he's not able to get it off. I mean, crazy foul by Pascal Siakam on a couple different plays. One, he comes over his back. Another one where, if you look at the replay, I mean, he's clearly just like grabbing his jersey and pulling him, and somehow OG ends up getting called for the foul. The refs, again, they were fucking trash. They were horrible. But OG, 22 points, but it wasn't that great of a 22. 7 of 16, 1 of 7 from 3, 7 of 9 from the line, missed 2 in the fourth quarter. OG was just okay, and defensively he wasn't popping off the screen, and Siakam was getting them. He was. Siakam had a very good game. Siakam was great in game 2, not so good in game 3. Game 4 comes out, 30 points, 11 of 21, 3 of 4 from 3. Killed us. And Brunson, he had the amazing first quarter, and then after that, he had a lot of times where he just wasn't being serious or strong enough or tight enough with the ball. And in the fourth quarter, we're just gonna give it to Bridges nonstop. Some of that point, it was just like, dog, like Brunson, if we're in a game that we're trying to come back and we're somewhat close, you can't attempt 4 shots. You got to attempt more than 4 shots. Brunson with 19 attempts, Cat with 15, OG 16, Mikal 15. As a team overall, we didn't get enough attempts up, period. And that was due to the 17 turnovers, the lack of offensive rebounding. We had 82 attempts to 88 from the Pacers. Shout to Coach Ray Ruiz, Monroe Township, New Jersey, Applegarth Middle School, late 90s. He used to always say that attempts is the most important statistic to look at the end of a game. Whichever team gets the most attempts typically wins, because there's so many other factors that go into it, especially how much you turn the ball over. Ray, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're a Pacers fan. This is a horrible take, and it's from somebody who either doesn't watch the actual games and or it just isn't like, it's just maybe you just don't know ball. Because when both of these teams play at their absolute height, the Knicks are a better team. They're more talented. They're just as deep. They just haven't developed or used those players enough, and we'll get to that. But I think the Knicks are absolutely a better team. And they just clearly don't consistently bring you the effort and attention to detail that you need to be able to get to and win an NBA Finals. If you look at the Knicks and their crazy variance in effort and their lack of lineup and player maximization, the only reason that they've been able to get to the conference finals is because of how wildly talented they are. And when you look at this team and you look at this game and you look at this season, eventually the conversation has to come down to and has to include Tom Thibodeau. I love Tibbs, man, for what he's done for us. I have been a big Tibbs supporter. Prior to this season, I mean, I've like basically refused to even entertain any Tibbs slander. But if you have watched this team this entire season and you are not a person who is more concerned with your narrative, or you're not so loyal to this guy that you believe he is beyond reproach and you refuse to criticize him, if you are somebody who is just watching it with an honest eye, and what you really want is not to be right, what you really want is not to get it done with this guy, but what you really want is to have and see the Knicks win a championship, I don't see how you can watch this entire series, this entire playoffs, this entire season, and think that Tom Thibodeau is the guy who's going to get you there. I flip-flopped on this a lot of times, and I think a lot of it is loyalty and my like for the guy that I want to keep coming back to whenever he shows me some signs of, making some adjustments or figuring some things out. I'm like, well, Tibbs is evolving too, and, maybe he's the guy. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. Ray, okay, sorry. So I'm sorry, but I gotta talk to Ray. They have 6 players that can score in double figures. That's tough to beat, young man. Okay, well, understand something. The New York Knicks have 4 players that can give you 20. Okay, and they have a Deuce McBride who can definitely get you into double figures as well. So I would say that's even a deeper team. The Knicks were the first team to have 4 players score 20 before January 21st since the 70s or some shit. The Knicks are a very well balanced and a very deep team. The Pacers, I'm sorry, but you can't talk to me about a Nemhard or a Miles Turner being on the same level as a Bridges and a Karl Anthony Towns as far as just overall NBA players if they're being totally maximized. So I would say that the Knicks are a much better team. I'm not gonna say better, not much better. That's overstating it. The Knicks are a better team than the Pacers. But the Knicks issue is that until game 3, they only play 7 guys. Really like 6.5. So they come out game 3. DeLon Wright comes out. Campaign, you're nailed to the bench. A million different reasons why he should have been nailed to the bench. Bad play, bad attitude, chucking up a 3 when, you're about to get taken out of the game on like some AAU type shit. And then also just being an absolute loose cannon and not having any understanding of time, score, situation, what's going on. Cat's getting it going, and you want to chuck up a 27-footer with 16 left on the clock, and you're just dribbling yourself into the ground and out of bounds for absolutely no reason. I've been listen, the DeLon Wright thing, I'm not no prisoner of the moment. I've been saying since the season I want to see DeLon Wright over Campaign. I was saying it all throughout the playoffs. My pops was like, damn, yo, you love this cat DeLon Wright. I think you just like saying his name or something. And listen, can anybody disagree with that? Now, all those times where you say to yourself, oh, okay, well, and everybody likes to say this. Whenever you disagree with the coach, if people want to support that coach, they say, well, this guy clearly knows more than you know about basketball. Yeah, sure. He does know more than me about basketball. When it came to whether or not DeLon Wright should play over Campaign, I was right. Tibbs was wrong. Who can honestly dispute that at this point? Just because these guys are lifers and they know a lot about basketball and they're good coaches. Con Thibodeau's a good coach. But just because that's the case doesn't mean that the man does not sometimes see things through a lens that's incorrect and he cannot be criticized. He can be. He should be. Tibbs, there's things that he's done all year that I've questioned. The playing the people as much as they do, refusing to take them out at the ends of games, the not developing the bench. And all of those things have contributed to where we are right now. But last night, deciding to stick with Josh Hart when it was so clear that he was so bad. And I know he's your guy. You stick with your guys. He's played well this season. He's the guy that you never know when he's going to come up with a huge play. He sucked last night. He wasn't good. He was bad the entire time. And if there was ever a time for Josh Hart not to play 36 minutes and Miles McBride to only play 15, it was last fucking night. And it was crystal clear to everybody that was watching that game except for Tom Thibodeau. Tibbs, man, I don't understand. Him and Bridges, both not playing well. Deuce is the guy that you would probably, sub in and get in the game instead of either of those two. And yet he plays 15 minutes last night. Deuce was he was good in those 15. I thought he was pretty good. But he plays 15. Deuce's plus minus last night, minus 14. Not great. Third worst on the team, but from a night-to-night basis, is not how you evaluate plus minus. And if you look at Deuce and his plus minus throughout the entire season, it's one of the best in the entire NBA. And when you look at the lineup of Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride, Bridges, OG, and Cat, it has been our best lineup all season. It's what I personally think should be the starting lineup. I've been saying Josh Hart should come off the bench for a long time when there was rumors that there was going to be a switch and it's going to be Mitch being brought in at the 5 instead of, Josh being in at the 4. Go big. I was like, okay, I'll take it. We need a switch, but I really want to see Deuce instead of Josh Hart in the starting rotation. And that lineup has been the best lineup for this team throughout the season, the best lineup for this team throughout the playoffs. Last night, I think they played a grand total of 1 minute together. But the starting lineup that had to change, they played more minutes together than anybody. Again, make that make sense. He refuses to play that lineup together. I don't get it. I don't get it. Nice versus the Pacers. The best lineup that continues to bring us in the game is Cat, Mitch, OG, Deuce, and Wright. Yes, they are a lineup that is overall had some really good stretches in these last 2 games as far as bringing us back, but any of our best lineups are going to include JB in the long run. But yes, I would like to see more stretches of that one. Ray. Look, buddy, I am very well versed in Rick Carlisle. I think he's out coaching Tom Thibodeau. I don't think that they're a better team on paper than the Knicks are. Are they being better coached? Is their rotation better? Have they developed their rotation over time? Do they have more continuity because they've played together? Yes. Are they a better team on paper than the Knicks? No, they're not. I know exactly who Rick Carlisle is. I know who he is as a player. I know of him as a player. It's a little bit before my time, but I've watched him as a coach. I've always sung his praises. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's out coaching Tibbs. He's running circles around him, quite frankly. But there's no way that you can look at these 2 teams and tell me that the Pacers have a better team on paper. I can't understand why we won't play the lineups that statistically say we're the best. And you know what? Mikal Bridges, not great at navigating screens. He's a really good roamer, off-ball player. The play he makes on Tatum, off-ball. He's really good at that. He's a good one-on-one defender sometimes too as well. OG, we know, is a good one-on-one defender. And as far as his ability to roam and help, he's a savant. Okay. I promise I'm not gonna get this dude any more air, but I have to just because I don't know. I don't know if he seems like he's listening, but he's not paying too much attention, I guess. So I'm gonna just give it one more time so he understands. The Knicks are a better team on paper than the Pacers. That doesn't mean that they are being maximized and deployed as well as they possibly can be to be able to get further and achieve more than the Pacers do. That is the point that I am making. The Pacers are clearly outplaying the Knicks right now and are a better team. The Knicks are a better team on paper. I said that slow. Maybe, it'll sink in this time. The point I was making as far as Halliburton and how he's killing us, his use of screens, I think Deuce is a better defensive matchup for Halliburton than Bridges is. Bridges is getting cooked by Hallie. Halle Berry is cooking him. And we could really, really use something different, whether that maybe be OG on him, but then who guards Siakam? Because Siakam kills Bridges whenever they get switched on him as well. Also, that Indiana team, they switch and they do whatever they have to do to be able to get the matchups that they want and they exploit them. The Knicks don't seem to do that very often at all very well and haven't all season. And when you look at this team and this game, there's no reason that Deuce should not only be playing more. Now, I was calling Deuce, for full transparency, I was calling the Miles McBride in the Detroit series. He was horrible in that series. But part of Deuce and why he has so many ups and downs is because his minutes are so inconsistent. Ray, I'll give you this point. One of the things that you were saying before, as far as how the rotation players, they understand more so how these, when I'm going to play, where I'm going to play, what I'm going to end up being asked to do during my time. They have a lot more consistency with that. And therefore, guess what? Their guys excel in those roles more. The Knicks, on the other hand, if you're not one of them starting five guys, you have no idea how much you're going to play on a night-to-night basis. And I think that that's one thing that definitely hurts Deuce. Deuce, if he knew like, hey, I'm going to be playing these like 22 minutes a game, I'm usually going to be playing with these guys, I'm usually going to come in around this time and, I think that would really, really help him become a more consistent player if he had more consistency in his overall role. Deuce had to play more last night. DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet play a total of 15 minutes. What is it that just worked in game 3? Was these guys playing more, their defense, their willingness to just quickly move the ball, them playing with Cat so that Cat has the ability out there to just dominate with a bunch of guys who are strictly just looking to get him to rock. When DeLon Wright or when Deuce run the pick and roll with Cat, their first instinct is get Cat the ball on the roll or the pop. Brunson, it's not his first instinct enough. It's one of my few criticisms of Brunson is that he does not just quickly get it back to Cat enough on the pick and pop. When those guys play with him, that's all they're trying to do. Those lineups have looked great. The Knicks in game 3, they were the team that, was able to be more strong and seem more energetic down the stretch. Where in many of these other games against the Pacers, because the Pacers run so much, they seem like they're wilting towards the end, both mentally and physically. And in that game, we're able to come back. Those guys give us huge minutes. Brunson spends a big chunk on the floor in the fourth quarter. Now, why did that happen? And why did we all think that Tom Thibodeau had really figured something out? He figured something out in the fact that DeLon Wright needed to play over campaign. He figured something out in making a switch in the starting lineup and bringing Josh Hart off the bench. But that whole thing about DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet playing a lot more minutes, that was a mirage. It was a mirage. That was foul trouble. That was JB being in foul trouble. That was Cat being a little bit of foul trouble. Josh Hart. No, Deuce. Deuce came in and picked up like 3 fouls in like a minute and 12 seconds. That's why we saw more of those guys. He was just going to switch up the starting lineup and bring in Deuce and then bring in DeLon Wright for a little bit here and there, like he basically, he was going to bring in campaign. We got the smoke and mirrors because Deuce and because JB were in such foul trouble, because in game 4, he goes right back to the old formula. Precious only played 2 minutes because Cat got in foul trouble. He got the quick 2. DeLon Wright plays 9 minutes. Shamet plays 11. They play a total of just over 20 minutes between the two of them. And Deuce plays 14 minutes and 31 seconds. And we go right back to the starting 5 of the entire season, all playing 34 minutes or better. Mitchell starts but only plays 18 minutes and 49 seconds. Doesn't play at all in the fourth quarter at all. Mitch didn't look great. He looked a little gassed. He wasn't having the impact that he typically has on the offensive glass, but 0 minutes in the fourth quarter? I don't know about that. That doesn't really track. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't get it, man. I thought we learned something in game 3. I thought the coach did too. The lie detector says that was a lie. And when you take a step back and you look at the entire thing, we didn't figure this out throughout the season. When you have 5 guys playing 36 minutes every single night, You don't get to develop a consistency in a role for a Deuce, for a Shamit, for a DeLon Wright, for even guys like a Pacome Dadier, for a Precious, Huck Porty. You don't get to develop these guys and develop a role, and you don't get to mix and match all these different combinations to find out who works best together. You don't experiment with that during the season, so now it's the playoffs, and they don't know what the fuck to do. They don't know what to do. They're all over the place. Ray asked the question, if the New York Knicks don't win the series, will it be on the coach or on the players? Ray, I think it's a silly question to a certain extent because it's always some combination of both. The thing is that you can't change the whole roster. You can change the coach. And at the end of the day, when the players aren't maximizing, you either have to say, is this guy just not the guy? Or are we not maximizing him? Are we not getting the most we can out of him? We're not maximizing Karl Anthony Towns. We're not. I would say that we're not maximizing Jalen Brunson. Everything for him is as hard as it possibly can be. Everything is, Jalen, go figure it out. We rarely get him a shot where he is having the ball kicked to him and he's wide open. Watch it. Watch the two teams play. Watch Indiana. Indiana comes up. They run that pick and roll. That's not it. They got shit going on off ball. And if that don't work, they run it into another pick and roll. There's a side screen. The guy's coming and curling around here. He's getting a back screen for a wide open three. We're doing a back screen here. That guy's in the corner. They're running action, yo. The Knicks don't run none of that shit. The Knicks run like a play basically to start off the game. A lot of times they're always trying to scheme up OG for a dump down and a wide open dunk or some shit like that. And then after that, they run some Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson pick and roll. Occasionally it might be Bridges in that spot. They run a little pin down for OG sometimes, but it is basic basketball. And for a lot of the game, especially late, it is give it to Brunson and everybody get the fuck out the way. And Brunson, luckily, is extremely good at that. He's the clutch player of the year. His ability to score at any place on the floor and his variety of moves and otherworldly shot-making ability and footwork allow us to be fairly successful doing that. We're in the Eastern Conference Finals. 50 games for the second time in a row. First time since the 90s. But can we get to the next level with this coach? I don't think we can. The stubbornness, the inability to make, changes on the fly and really see what is going on out there and look at the numbers and the analytics that have piled up over the season and say that, man, this is our best lineup. Yo, the Knicks, we're not good at that. We're not good at that. He's not good at that. Tom Thibodeau's not good at that. We've seen this with him before. If your team is lacking culture, if your team is lacking a certain level of, just accountability, he will bring you up from the mud. But he can't get you to the ceiling. At this point, I really don't know. Unless you're one of those people who you just refuse to ever criticize this guy, I don't know how you can watch and feel any differently. Don't know how you can look at that game, watch that game, and say to yourself that Josh Hart should have played 46 minutes and Deuce McBride should have played 15. Anybody make that make sense? Go look at Tommy Beer's post from about 7 hours ago. It's an excerpt from the newsletter that he puts out. And read that. I won't read the whole thing. But I'll read a little bit. I keep coming back to the fact, again, this is courtesy of Tommy Beer on X, at Tommy Beer. I keep coming back to the fact that Thibodeau had 6 months to experiment and tinker with different lineups. yet was content to trot out the same 5 players for 35 plus minutes every single night. Now Tibbs is bench Payne and is starting Mitch Robb as he desperately tries to figure things out on the fly in the middle of the ECF. We are 3 days away from June, and he is still searching, attempting to make the puzzle pieces fit together correctly. Shaman and Wright were DMP CDs in both games 1 and 2. Payne logged a total of 19 minutes at MSG and was a net negative. If Tibbs had made the switch before the series started, might New York have beaten Indiana in either contest? Both came down to the final possession. How much different might this series look right now? Look, man, he goes on to say that Rick Carlisle is confident in his bench. Each reserve knows approximately when they will check in, what is expected of them, and when they are on the floor is comfortable and productive in their respective roles. The same cannot be said for New York. Can't be said any better, right, than it is right there by my guy, Tommy Beer. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Hey, if you're checking us out, I do this show, Nick on Knicks, do it at least a couple times a week, sometimes more, depending on what's going on. I also do a show called He Did This to Me, which is me and my pops. We're talking Knicks, Mets, and Jets, and whatever the biggest sports stories at the time in all of sports are. We really, really, really appreciate you guys. Nice said, whoever said that knows that for sure. Again, Nice, that is Tommy Beer. Tommy Beer on X. If you are a Knicks fan and you're not following him on X, if you're not on X for anything else and you just get an account to go follow Tommy Beer, you should go do that, because this guy legit, if when you want to talk Knicks, you want to talk Knick narratives, you want to understand things both on an anecdotal level and also on a statistical level, the best, bar none. Okay. Got to follow him. You got to follow the guys over on Hot Hand Theory, Frank Barrett, and my guy XJ. Those they keep you in the know. And I'm not typically an analytic guy. I am more so a little bit old school in how I analyze and watch basketball. And sometimes I call them nerds and say that, all the numbers are this and this and this, but you got to actually watch the games, and you can't just rely on what you can, plug into a spreadsheet and figure out. There's a place for it, and those guys are the place. Tommy Beer and the guys from Hot Hand Theory, XJ, and Barrett, man. Listen, man. Sometimes the statistics are so overwhelming that they're hard to deny. No matter what your eyeballs tell you, they're hard to deny. Deuce McBride needs to play more. No one, forget statistics. Forget how it ended up. Watch that game last night. Anybody, any Knicks fan, with all the context, understanding what Josh Hart has meant to this, to this franchise, understanding that Deuce sometimes has been a little bit inconsistent. Watch that game last night and tell me early on that Deuce should have been playing. I'm sorry, that Josh Hart should have played 36 minutes and that Deuce should only play 15. You just can't. You can't watch that game and tell me that, man. And it's really unfortunate that it seems like the head coach was the only person who didn't understand that. Now our backs are against the wall. Obviously, there's no room for error. One more game and we will be on vacation. And hey, the thing about this Knicks team is, with the level of Jekyll and Hyde that we've seen all season, I actually wouldn't be that surprised if they came out and won 3 games. I'm not going to sit here and say I have faith in it. I wouldn't bet on it, that's for sure. I'm hopeful. I'm a watch, and I'm a hope for the miracle. And if they do, I'm going to be ecstatic. It's going to be one of the greatest comebacks. It's going to be one of the greatest moments in sports history for me. It'll be all of those things if it happens. And we'll see. This is one of the few teams that can look as bad as they have, and then all of a sudden they look like shit, man. They could beat anybody. So you never really know, but no matter what, we're going to be along for the ride. Shout out to Knicks Nation. Appreciate y'all spending a little bit of time with me today. If you're in the replay gang, definitely get in there. Throw some comments in there. I will respond. I cannot promise it'll be nice. Ray, all jokes aside, I did enjoy going back and forth with you a little bit today. Shout out to everybody in the chat. My man N.I.C, he was in the chat, keeping it live. Darlene, always showing love. Just everybody out there, man. Hey, if you're watching, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, share it with your friends. If you're on X, hop over to YouTube and give the subscribe. Hit that notification button so when we are going live, you'll get that notification and you can decide to check in then or decide to check in later. But it's best to be in live because I like to interact with y'all, man. I do and enjoy it. And this Knicks team, man, it has been maddening. There's been such highs this season and such lows. And hopefully they can, give us one more turn when it comes to that because it feels real low right now. At some point, you have to figure out a way to do things with consistency. And this Knicks team is yet to figure that out. This is your boy Nick on Knicks. Peace.